It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Colorado Mesa's head cheerleading coach, Coach Connor Charlesworth. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you want to get started in coaching in college cheerleading?
So for me, it's kind of a long, convoluted story that this is not where I thought I would end up being. So originally, when I was in high school, um, I was playing football. I was doing multiple sports, and the head football coach, his wife was the cheerleading coach, and they needed some help with some boys. Myself and another buddy were captains of the football team, and we got kind of voluntold that we were going to do cheerleading on that high school team to help out. So I did it for 1 year in high school. And then when I got to college, I actually signed a national letter of intent to play football at Colorado Mesa University, formerly known as Mesa State. I played football there for 2 years. During that time, I kind of was just helping out with cheer when they needed help. And then I ended up getting a concussion that pulled NCAA regulated sports away from me. And cheerleading isn't regulated by the NCAA. So I was able to pick up cheerleading and start doing that. And I did that I was on the team for 5 years. I was captain for 3 of the 5. And then when I was getting ready to be done with college, the head coach at the time approached me and said, "Hey, I need an assistant coach. I'd like to see if you would want to do it." So I told her, yeah, I would do it. And after that 1 year, she came to me and said, "Hey, I'm ready to retire. The program's yours if you're willing to take it." And yeah, I didn't know what else to do at that point. So I kind of got handed the reins and took over as the head cheerleading coach. And now going on 9 years, I'm still the cheerleading coach at Colorado Mesa University.
Of course, what was that experience like for you being a cheerleading athlete for Colorado Mason?
Well, like I kind of said earlier, with doing all the other sports growing up, I didn't know what it was like to be a cheerleader, really. What I knew was what it was like to be an athlete. So when I started becoming a cheerleader, I didn't really change my mentality. A lot of people don't view cheerleaders as athletes. Well, when I stepped into that, I realized that it takes a lot of athleticism. We're running and doing flips in the air. We're throwing people up in the air and holding them. And so I had the same mentality that I did when I was a college football player, high school wrestler, high school football player, all of that, that I'm here to do my best job and I'm going to bring the others around me up and try to make it so they view themselves as athletes as well.
Of course, how was that feeling like after graduating, becoming a head cheerleading coach?
It was very overwhelming, especially that first 2 years I was the head coach. The people that were on the team were people that I was teammates with. So it was difficult and overwhelming that now I have to, I can't really be their friend anymore. Now I have to be their coach. And how am I going to do my other job, my other full-time job, along with coaching head being a head cheerleading coach at a university when I have no idea what to do. I was just an athlete a year before, and now all of a sudden I have to run this program to help the university look good to the public and also do well at competitions.
Of course, so what was that biggest transition like, obviously coaching the cheerleaders that you competed with?
I would say the biggest transition was making that distinction that yeah, we're still friends when we're outside of practice, but when we're at practice, we can't really be friends anymore. There can't be the jokes that there used to be anymore. Now we have to draw a line in the sand that states we can't pass this threshold or it becomes unprofessional and not fair to the other athletes that don't know me as a friend. They only know me as a coach. And I love you outside of practice, but in here, you and I it's a coach and athlete relationship. And I'll love you as an athlete, but we cannot have that same relationship anymore. And that was really hard for me because I'm a people person. I love hanging out with people. And that was a really difficult thing for me to handle.
How are you able to balance obviously being the head cheerleading coach and then also on top of that being a firefighter?
So luckily I have a very good assistant coach that is also my wife that we we kind of schedule the practices somewhat around my schedule for the fire department. So we do what's called a 48-96 schedule. So I work 2 days straight and then get 4 days off straight. And the days that I have off is 100% dedicated to cheerleading. When I'm at work with the fire department, though, she is in full control. And whatever decision she decides to make when it comes to what's best for the team and what's best for the university, I fully support and I don't second guess her because she understands what's going to make the team look good on the sidelines and in competition. And I have full faith. It is a struggle. There are many times going from being on shift with the fire department, running on an hour or less sleep and showing up, and now all of a sudden I have to be a coach. But it's good for me. I'm still young, so it helps out.
How have you been able to start to build the culture for cheerleading?
For me, and I think it's across the board from all the other cheerleading coaches I've talked to, whether it was asking them for mentorship or just talking with them at competitions and sidelines, is we're changing the culture that cheerleaders aren't what people always had the stereotype that cheerleaders are just preppy people. We're changing the stereotype that these are true athletes, that these aren't kids that are there just to look pretty on the sidelines and wear skirts and crop tops and things of that nature. We're changing the culture that these are true athletes. And like at the university, we're held to the same standard as the football team, as the basketball team. We have to maintain the same GPA, the same amount of credits. They have study tables. They have varsity weight room lifts every 2 days a week. They're down in the varsity weight room doing weights with other programs that are down there. So just changing that culture that these guys are true athletes, and I'm going to hold them to that standard.
Of course, what does the typical game day look like for you as a head coach?
So for me as the head coach, it's a little different than for the athletes, obviously. But depending on what time the game is, I get up, get ready, and then head to the stadium. I try to get to the stadium before any of the athletes do to make sure if there's anything going to change for the game day, where they want a standing, how they want the intro to the football team to look like, or the basketball team. And then what's nice is I've got phenomenal captains that help run this program, and I've with having captains and trying to keep a good span of control with our team, I kind of give a lot of leadership abilities to those captains. And when we're sitting there, I'll tell them, hey, these are the things that need to be changed today. You guys are in charge of disseminating that information across the board to the team. If they have any questions that you don't have answers to, bring it back to me. But I also want to put those captains in a true point of leadership where they can kind of help lead this team. If there's things that need to be addressed as a head coach, I'll step in and address it as a team. But game day is pretty laid back for me because I let the captains run a lot of it.
Of course, with football and basketball being so popular at your school, what has that been like? Obviously, having a two popular sports versus where some schools might only have a basketball program.
It's a lot. So for us, because both programs are successful and a lot of students and a lot of our community like to go watch them, it's a lot. So our season kind of starts as soon as school starts in August, and our season doesn't end until basketball is completely over. Right now, both our men and women's basketball team are in the regional championships. So next weekend there's a chance that we fly down to go cheer them on in the NCAA tournament for Division II. And so our season kind of goes year round. But that's the other thing with cheerleading is our main job is to support the other sports programs on campus. Yeah, we get our own competition, but we're there to support them. So we'll go as long as those guys are going, and that's what our job is.
What does a typical football game day look like as a cheerleading versus basketball?
So football's obviously a little bit longer. It's hotter and we're outside. So there's those elements that kind of play into it, whether it's getting sunburnt or it's raining or snowing and high winds. Game day wise, when we're on football season, we get to do a little bit more stunt style that we want to do. We get to do a little more stunts that aren't as illegal as they would be in basketball. And then when it comes to being at the football game, obviously we're in a stadium, so we try to reach as many of the fans as we can. It's a little harder because it's more spread out. As far as basketball, the stunts, we have to make sure they're within, excuse me, we have to make sure that they're within the legalities of everything. And then it's a lot more personal environment because it's a lot smaller, little stadium, but I enjoy both a lot. It's a lot of fun getting to interact with the crowd. Basketball's fun because we get to interact with the players a little more. So I enjoy both of them. They're both a lot of fun, and they both have their unique things about them, but they're about the same.
Of course, being a head cheerleading coach, what is it like getting to take your cheerleaders to different competitions?
So it's really fun. I enjoy going to the competitions more as a coach than I did as an athlete because now as an athlete, you were solely focused on what you had to do. Now as a coach, I get to see these athletes develop from when they show up from seniors in high schools to whatever age they are in college and see how they mature and how they can handle the pressure of the situation depending on what competition we're at. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the main difference is just getting to enjoy seeing the athletes grow and mature in their own right.
Of course, for competition days, what does that game day routine look like?
So for competition, we kind of, when it comes to competition, I believe that we need to be together as a family. So that day, there's no like going out and hanging out with family, whatever time the competition is. This last year, we didn't compete the first day until 10:30 at night. So there wasn't a lot of like going out and hanging out with your families. It was more of we're a family today. We're all going to hang out together. So kind of depending on whatever time the competition is, the athletes start getting ready. We then get on the bus all together and ride over. And I want them to have fun and relax. So we play music through a speaker with them the whole time, whatever music they want, but reminding them that it's a business trip. At some point, we have to remember to lock it in and be prepared for the competition that we're at. So once we get to usually our warm up time, which is anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes before the actual performance, is when I really start like dialing it in on that we're here for a business trip. We're here to either like do well or why did we come? So that's kind of what it looks like. Then once we compete, we kind of hang out, wait for judges' scores to come back, and then kind of the same thing the next day. Just make sure they're mentally ready to compete.
Who are some of the different schools in your conference that you compete against each week?
So for us with cheerleading, we only compete once a year. And the competition we do is called the USA Championships in Anaheim, California. So this last year we competed. The competition that we go to doesn't divide between Division One and Division Two. So last year we went against several Division One programs and a couple Division Twos. Some of the schools we went against that are in our same conference of Division Two are CSU Pueblo, as well as Metro State out of Denver. And then we competed against San Jose State, and also Fresno State, and Cal Poly. So those are some of the teams we compete against at nationals. This year we were very fortunate. We got second in the nation behind San Jose, so we beat the other Division II schools and three of the four Division I schools. So it was really good.
Of course, what is that like just getting to see those different teams on game days for the conferences?
Um, it's surprising, that's for sure, because you can see where Division One, like those kids are Division One for a reason. They're stud athletes. Not taking anything away from Division Two athletes. There are phenomenal Division Two athletes all over this country. But it's cool seeing, like they're good athletes and they're out there representing their school very well. And yeah, they're Division One for a reason. But it's really fun to see, and it's good seeing too that like with that competition, them not dividing Division One and Division Two, seeing that it doesn't matter really what division you're in, whether one or two, that any school can do well on any given day. It doesn't matter as long as you can go out there and perform your routine. Then you can place anywhere in that anywhere in the competition.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective cheerleaders that are looking to play in college?
So it kind of depends on the university. There are some universities that do true recruitment where You have to be reached out to by the head coach, and they will recruit you to come to the program. There's other programs that do tryouts for it. We're kind of excuse me, we're kind of a mixture of both, where we do some recruiting, but we also do tryouts. Our recruiting is a lot more laid back than what bigger universities would do. But for ours, it's tryouts. So yeah, we post everything on social media so people can see when it is, and we give them all the information, all the tools for the toolbox for them to show up and be successful at tryouts.
Of course, as a head coach during these tryouts, what are you looking at in those prospective student athletes?
So the big things I'm looking for is one, coachability. If you're doing something that's not correct and I come up and correct it, or another assistant coach corrects it, you're able to take those corrections and immediately start changing them. As a head coach, I don't want to have to repeat myself over and over and over again, because then we're just wasting precious time that can be utilized for something else. Another big thing that we're looking for is somebody that's willing to try new things. You might have in high school only been a main base your entire life. Well, what if I don't need a main base? What if I need a secondary or a back spot? If you're willing to venture away from that comfortability and accept a new position and work hard at it, that's another thing I'm looking for. And another thing is like the just go get it attitude. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to speak your mind at times. There's a limit to speaking your mind, obviously, but just like have a go get it attitude and want to be good and want to better yourself every day.
Of course, as a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on that uniform for the first time?
It's always really cool. I can speak for probably every coach in the world that seeing an athlete that comes to your university and they put on that uniform for the first time and seeing their face light up because they're finally getting to live a dream they've had, whether it was to play football, to do basketball, to play golf in college, to be a cheerleader. These kids have been dreaming to do that their entire life, and now for the first time they're actually living it. It's a really cool experience to be a part of.
What is it like as a head coach seeing those cheerleaders put on that uniform for the last time representing the school?
Uh, I would say I could probably also speak this for a lot of coaches across the world that one's a rough one, because you do when you build relationships with these athletes, you really do. That yeah, there's that coach athlete dynamic that's there, but you also get to know these athletes and their personal lives, and you want them to be successful not only as an athlete but as a person later on in life. So when you see them put on that uniform the last time, it's heartbreaking sometimes, because you don't want to lose that athlete and you don't want to give them up. You've kind of sheltered them and you've had them underneath your wing for 4 to 5 years. But it's also really cool because you've seen them mature from that first time they put on that uniform to the last, and seeing what kind of person, athlete they're going to become, and it's really rewarding.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those cheerleaders go on and compete in professional cheerleading in the NFL or NBA?
I think it's really cool, especially now in the NFL. They're starting to incorporate more true cheerleading teams. There's a lot of you hear the Dallas cheerleaders. They're more of a dance team than they are cheerleaders. But it is cool. The NFL is expanding. There are some cheerleading teams on sidelines of NFL games, which is really cool. I think that it's awesome that it's starting to get expanded to more things like that. I think it's awesome that within the last year or two, the Olympics has considered cheerleading a sport, that there's potential of it being in the Olympics. It's awesome to see that it's no longer becoming just a game day thing, that these kids are being seen as athletes and as professional athletes. I think that's really cool that it's expanding.
Of course, what are some of your future plans for the cheerleading program moving forward?
My future plans are to keep doing well at competitions. And then my biggest thing, I tell all the athletes from day one is, if as bad as it sounds, if we were to never win a national championship, but every single one of my athletes grow up to be a phenomenal human, great mom or dad, mother, husband or wife, then that's all I care about. I'm in the head coaching position, and the reason I keep doing it is because I want to make phenomenal people, and people that will be successful in this world, that will contribute to this world. So yeah, my plans are to, obviously try to win a national title and keep doing that, but also to keep bringing up that culture of phenomenal people that will represent whatever career field they choose in the right way.
What advice would you give those freshmen entering their first year of college cheerleading?
Um, that it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard, especially if you're moving away from mom and dad and away from home, going across the country or across the state. It's going to be hard. You're going to miss your old friends. You're going to miss your mom and dad. You're going to miss all that. And it's going to be overwhelming. You've now got a class schedule that you have to go to, plus all of the events for cheerleading. It's going to be hard, but you can do it. There are millions of people that do it every day of every year. You can do it. Just believe and trust in the process, and it will all work out.
What advice would you give those cheerleaders out there looking to go compete professionally, whether it's the NFL or NBA?
I would tell them to, you got to perfect the basics. You can't try to be on a professional level team or professional anything if you don't perfect the basics. The basics are what create the solid foundation. And once you get that, then you can expand on those to become this professional. But if you don't have the basic style, then you're not going to make it.
What advice would you give those cheerleaders out there looking to get into coaching after their playing career?
If you're trying to get into coaching after your playing career, get ready for a rude awakening. It's difficult. It is really hard. I would not change it for a second. I love it, and I love being a coach, but it is really hard. And I think that's something that gets missed a lot is a lot of people talk about how hard it is for the athletes and how hard it is doing things day in and day out. But there is a lot of things that are behind the scenes that athletes never see. Athletes are never told. They're never made aware of. That is just constant on coaches. And yeah, it's very difficult, but it's worth every second of it.
What advice would you give those head coaches out there looking to build their own program and build their own legacy in cheerleading?
I would say very similar to what I just said. It's really difficult. Just be open-minded. Don't be afraid to ask for help. A lot of people think I know how to do it and I'm going to do it my way and there's no other way. Well, I'm willing to bet money there's somebody that tried it the exact way you're trying to do it, that it either worked out or it might not have worked out. So don't be afraid to ask for help from those around you that have succeeded, because those people know what has and hasn't worked, whether they've been a coach for a year or they've been a coach for 25 years. They've witnessed what works and what doesn't. So ask for that help.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the program app?
So I don't have a lot of social media. My social media is pretty minuscule personal social media, but if they want to go on to Colorado Mesa cheerleading on Instagram and Facebook, they can find it there. To be honest with you, I have no idea if we have a Twitter because I don't run social media because I'm terrible at it. But I know we have an Instagram and a Facebook, so they can go on there. It has all of our videos from competitions, has pictures of all of our athletes. It has info about all of our tryouts, stunt clinics, anything and everything kind of about our squad is on our Instagram and Facebook.
Thank you again, Coach Connor Charlesworth, for your interview and best luck in your future with the Colorado Mason as the head cheerleading coach.
And thank you. I want to really appreciate this opportunity to speak with you today. It's been a lot of fun.
You're welcome. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Connor, for your interview and best luck in your future.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.